everybody. Let's see if we can get a sound check here. There's a lag, so you're hearing the music come through again. Switch glasses here. Okay, it sounds like I'm coming through. Turn the volume down on this. Let me turn a little more light on here. Whoa! Trying a different camera. It's over here, so have to learn to look up at it. The other camera, oh, never mind, it doesn't matter. You hopefully are getting a slightly cleaner picture off this camera than you normally get. It's a little more light intense, but the lens is better. So, hello everybody, and welcome. That little thing I was playing at the beginning, I had rewritten the lyrics to the late Stan Rogers' one of my favorite songs of his, "The Idiot," and I want to call it "The Kiddiot," and I had modified the lyrics for kit models. And I tried narrating it and sounding it and singing it and everything. And they were all, I can't carry a tune in a bucket. I have a little trouble meter and rhyme. So and I thought I had it, I was like, I had the lyrics out of I was saying. And then I listened to the headset, it sounded okay. And I was going to show it to my wife. And then when I did over the speaker, it just sounded horrible. I was like, nope. And she came up with a great idea. She said, well, just put it up there like karaoke style and tell the Glue Troopers, anybody out there who's musically inclined wants to record it. Whoever does the best one, if anybody even submits one, I'll make that one of the intros. I'm still in the dark, okay? All right, any better? And, oh my gosh, you're right. I look down on the monitor, I see how dark it is. It's a cross between, it's the option between a grainy picture and a well-lit one. May have to bring one of my studio lights in here at some point. And, anyway, so, let me just remove one or two of these things here. You're here, so obviously you don't need that information. That's interesting that I must have accidentally gotten rid of my logo. Not a problem. I'll just put the little Glue Trooper back there. Give me just a second to find him here. Mix those models. And there we go. And thanks again to Noel for that animation. So, okay. That's it. Oh, a whole bunch of folks checking in. That's wonderful. You'll see me switching glasses as normal if I have to read I got the iPad in front of me to monitor with. So, I guess we'll just start with the, I know we come here to have a good time, but I guess there's no getting around it, as you can tell by the little picture I have up here. There's no getting around the fact that what's going on in the Ukraine is affecting our little kit model world. This is something somebody sent me off of a Facebook page. People, of course, are already modeling. And for those who don't know, apparently a lot of Russian vehicles outran their fuel supply, ran out of gas. The troops abandoned the vehicles to go get fuel. And apparently Ukrainian farmers are taking tractors and towing the vehicles away. You just can't make that stuff up. And evidently this is not quite as an uncommon scene as you might think. So, chalk one up for the locals and their ingenuity. But it is, of course, having a big impact on the kit model world because there's so many companies. You guys have those Rodin kits, and there's just a bunch of kits in the Ukraine. They're some of the most passionate modelers and model makers. And they have an interesting cross-section of the necessary engineering skills and mechanical skills, talent, and an interest in the subject. Because, let's face it, a lot of people that go in the model business, they could probably have made more money if they put their money elsewhere. But I think a lot of them are in it because they love the industry. And they're pretty dedicated to it. In fact, I forget it was either Zvezda but I think it was one of the Ukrainian model companies, one of the few of them that actually put, about a year or two, they put video out online showing their internal operation. And they have the engineering departments, the guys on computers using real engineering drafting tools like you would use to design any real piece of equipment. And they're out there, designing away on the models. That's And I know the kits are hit and miss. I've heard people complain about Rodin kits. I've got a couple I need to build just so I can form my own opinion. But we all know every kit company is going to make one or two that don't turn out to be so great. But apparently, in general, it's just, I think from what I've seen, given a lot of these companies aren't that old, they're doing really good work overall. I've seen a lot of the online reviews, and the quote-unquote complaints people have are pretty minor. So, might be raised panel or, rivet heads. I mean, you have to really get into the rivet counting. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing more because this is called work in progress. I'm sure it's part of an ongoing diorama. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of dioramas come out of that. A lot of us really love to model military, especially World War II. And I honestly never thought I would see another war in Europe in my lifetime, if ever. And apparently, from what I know we can't believe anything that's reported by either side because propaganda. But apparently, some fairly neutral sources have claimed that this is the biggest combat operations in Europe since the Second World War. It's way bigger than Crimea and the little border wars. There have been some skirmishes and stuff, but apparently this is the real deal. Grid squares of artillery and that kind of stuff. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of pictures coming out, and guys are going to model a lot of stuff. One of the things I did want to talk about was the AN-225 Miria. I think that's how you say it. The world's largest airplane that was destroyed at its home base in Ukraine. Finally, some pictures came out that the airplane was destroyed. But there was some debate at first as whether it was a 225 or something else that was in the hangar, but they finally got some real photography out. Apparently, it seems to be fuzzy. You guys may know more. The last thing I heard is that the Russian ground troops had taken the airport. They had to hold it, but the Ukrainians pushed them off, so they blew the thing up when they left. Which is, it's ironic it's a Russian-made airplane, but I guess they're afraid of leaving them with the asset, But plus, I think the thing had become a bit of a symbol. But anyway, it's a full-blown. This is a real honest-to-God, like the Germans into France or into Poland, and it's the real deal. And I served in the Army from 79 to 83. I was actually the one who went from olive drab fatigues to the BDUs, the battle dress uniform. And we thought when they took when the Ayatollah took the American hostages, we thought maybe go to Iran. But with all the nuclear proliferation, we never really seriously considered that we trained to fight the Russians. All of our stuff was OP4 ID. Some of the vehicles are still in service. We never really thought we were going to actually see a shooting war in Europe. And I realized, depending on where you stand on the issue, this is more of the Ukraine and Russia. It's not like they went into France, but still, it's a recognized country and everything. And anyway, that's what's gone on over there. And apparently I knew there was at least one kit model company that had its factory shelled years ago during one of the border skirmishes. I forget if it was in Kosovo or which one it was, but some of the molds that were made in the U.S., I think they were old frog molds, had gone to Novo and then gone through a couple other companies. They were getting pretty rough, as you could tell by the shots that were coming, all the flash and everything, and the poor quality. But, they were using what they had. And then they said that during one of the ethnic issues, that the factory happened to be in one of the no-man zones, and apparently the molds are still there if anybody's brave enough to go get them. So that's there's anyway, enough of the Ukraine. It's a sad situation. Unfortunately, it will affect us. So I imagine the price of kits from that region, they may all become collector's items in the future. Hey, John. Just saying hi at dinner with family. Oh, okay, well, hope you get back. I won't be going late because my lovely wife has a way of making sure I end this at 9 o'clock like I promised, and that she doesn't feed me until it's over. I'm kidding, of course. But anyway, So let's, hope everything squares itself away over there and the world can get back to normal, which I don't think is going to happen. But one of the things, I don't have any notes on it. I spent all day trying to get that song recorded, and only to find out that I have all of the musical talent of a bandsaw. And that would be an insult to the saw. So if anybody wants to knock out that karaoke version of it, I'll loop it at the end, or I can email you the lyrics, or you can make up your own. But I really do love that Stan Rogers song, The Idiot, or as I call it, The Kitiot, because we build kits. Anyway, so one of the things that I was thinking about, I got yakking with somebody, was what do you do with all these broken parts or these broken kits? What happens when you have an old kit and parts are missing and everything? And one of the things that I used to do, and somewhere around here I have a couple of pictures, but I used to make crash scenes or wreck scenes out of them. And some of them are old videos. I had a little 1/72 scale SE5 that I never had a chance to go get the picture of, but I had just flipped on its back, used some matches to make like a fence that had flipped over on top of, put some stuff. And the same thing, my brother's old 1/32 scale P40E, I think it was the Flying Tiger one, and I think we'd used it for BB gun practice, and it had holes in it because we didn't have any firecrackers. And I wound up making a pretty good-sized diorama on top of a box. As a kid, I used to repurpose everything because I didn't have any money. And, but I've grown up since then. Now, speaking of which, I got this in the mail. And I really don't have any broken kits, but I do have a couple of them. But a glue trooper sent me this. You would think, as much as I'm in the models on our website, I already have this. But it's the Shep Payne book on how to build dioramas. And you start looking at some of the stuff he does, and some of it's like, okay, that makes sense. And then you look at some of it and realize, man, that guy was genius. The craftsmanship he does is incredible. And the little tricks. And some of them I knew, and some of them I had forgotten, and some of them I was like, oh, so that's how you do that. And I remember when his Lady Be Good diorama, I think it first came out in one of the magazines, but it's just, man, you could take photos up from the right angle, correct angle, people would think it was real. In fact, photorealistic models are becoming kind of almost a norm. And I got a bunch of pictures sent to me from folks from Heritage Con, and I want to put a video together on that at some point. Real quick, I think you guys already know this, but I literally got home yesterday at 2 a.m. and I'm out tomorrow. So the rest of this month, for the next 2 weeks, is going to be a blur. I probably won't be putting out any content, but I do have some days off at the end. I think I have 5-6 days off at the end of the month. And I plan to dedicate that towards getting ahead on some of the projects here and putting out some video content and stuff. And okay. I do this trip. Got 1 day off, go out for 4 days. Then I got a week off, and then I do a 3-day. And then I got about 40. So 2 weeks before I'm going to be able to do much. And that may mean that I get the group build for the watercraft out a little bit late, which will buy you a little time if you're nearing completion. So that's a story on that. But that's a job. They actually called me this morning, but I just not in the right place. I needed the time off. Oh, good. I'm glad your watercraft diorama's almost done. I have not gotten a chance to do the thing I said I was going to do with the Godzilla. I'm going to cut him in half and make a, but I haven't gotten the water surface made for displaying the models. In fact, I still got the PT boat half painted, and I haven't got started on the Pibber. I just got it out of the box. And today, with all this rain and everything, it's been so dreary around here. So that should keep me plenty busy and out of the bars. But by the way, I just wanted to give I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Lincoln for sending me that. I'm sorry. You'd think I would remember. I am getting so scatterbrained, and it's had to come all the way from Canada. But I need to up my game on dioramas, because although I've done a few, I've never really done anything that I'd be willing to put on a table. And then all these pictures coming from Heritage Con, and I look at these things, and every one of them looks like it should be in a museum under glass. I was really thrilled I got to go to Jack's Con and Model Palooza. Those are actually the first two model conventions I ever went to. and I'm gonna start trying to get to more of them. What I can't believe is people travel with. I mean, some of them actually are traveling by airline, and somehow their models are getting there in one piece. I don't know how they're pulling that off. I got my bags in the cockpit, and I managed to bend the antenna on the Kafir after packing it in paper and tissue paper and everything else just from getting squeezed in my bag. Everything else came okay. I've got it on the table. I was able to straighten the antenna out. It's not a bad little kit, but anyway, so that's where we're at that. But one thing I was thinking is that, when you have a kit that you pirated parts off or something, I know a lot of times we just throw all the stuff in the spares box, which is a good use, but a lot of times I've got a kit that's complete enough that I don't really want to do. I want to do something with it, and you can make some pretty nice either maintenance or crash dioramas or something like that. And I could. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate that. But good God, everybody's eating snow. It's March already. It's going to be April soon. Didn't anybody tell Mother Nature we're coming up on springtime? But one of the things that I like doing, though, with the broken models is that, or I don't want to say broken model, it's an opportunity sometimes for you, if you're one of those people who does really good interior detail work, to show some of your inside work, show playing with everything removed for maintenance, and I know some people often pose their models with the panels removed, but I'm like, but that's a perfect opportunity for a diorama. And when I do in my head right now, I'm thinking when I do the Dornier that TD, Tom Daniels, sent me, I just got an email from him the other day. He's 85 now. He's still going strong. He sent me one of his Dornier 335s he never got started on, because I talked about doing a kit bash with one, and it's the 1/48 scale. And what I'm planning to do is put a contra-rotating prop on front and a jet engine in the back and make it like this. It's going to be a kit bash for our kit bash build when we get around to that. And of course, I'll be bobbing the tail and be changing things, make it more than just hey, pulling off a rear prop and sticking a jet in the rear. That's pretty shallow. But I plan to do it like with a bunch of panels removed, so you can see the jet engine installed and try to show off some of the detail and everything, because it just breaks my heart when people do all this beautiful work and then you never see it. It's one of the nice things about those Trey's Gotha and a little bit on the Felix, though, is that at least you can see in there and see some of the detail. And I swear, if I somehow ended up with another Felix, though, I'm going to just do the internal as a separate display, because it is insane how much detail is in a Wingnut Wings model. I know some of you guys have built them, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, I'll just put a canopy cover over the cockpit and set the cockpit aside with all that nice stuff displayed, and throw a blanket over the cockpit. Take some foil or tissue and hang it around, maybe like they're skinning it or something. But I actually considered that with the Felix, though. If you got something like that, is just leave one of the side panels off and make it look like they're changing the skin on it, and that way you could really see the interior. Maintenance dioramas are great for that. Crash dioramas are great when you're missing parts or something, but that Felix, though, begs to be made as a maintenance diorama, because the engines are so detailed and they're exposed, and there's just so much you can do with those Wingnut Wings models. And and I understand that 1/32 scale Lancaster that they had made the molds for that they sold, or oh gosh, I forgot the name of the company, but it's putting them out. They're gonna be $500 or $600. But if you do have a partial kit or a broken kit, if it's worth doing, it just seems like kind of a shame to just throw the thing away, unless you got kids to here go play with that. But another thing we talked about was and I know we've got so many group builds lined up that it wouldn't get around to it for a while, but one idea might be doing the cars from the original. It was a 1974 movie, Gone in 60 Seconds, which that would give all the car builders a really rich choice of everything, because they were taking everything from Cadillacs to Ferraris in that movie. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie, but Border, that's it. Thank you, Border. But if you haven't seen the 1974 Gone in 60 Seconds, it's probably on YouTube. But I remember that came out, it was just basically, the movie's basically one big long chase. And I had forgotten that the guy who made it, whose name I always forget, Hideki or Hideka, Heideck. He was killed years later when they were making the sequel, when they had a stunt go bad, and apparently a cable broke on a water tower supposed to pull it down, and it snapped, and I think it sliced a phone pole in half, and it was the phone pole that hit him, killed him right there on the spot. But that would, I think the Gone in 60 Seconds, I got that written down. I'm going to keep that as a note. At some point we might do a Gone in 60 Seconds build. And I guess you could do the new movie also, but I really think the spirit of things, the old movie. And arguably one of Hollywood's more ridiculous movies, but apparently it was made on a less than $1 million. Even in the 70s, it was a small budget, like 150, 200 grand, something like that. It made like, I forget, $40 million or something. It was a huge hit. Yep. Parnelli Jones, the old, oh yeah, that's right. In fact, I think Parnelli Jones had a cameo in it along with a couple of the race car drivers. Toby Hilecki, that's it. Thank you. I can never you think Hellcat, maybe they'll help me remember. Foam, popcorn, yep, bubble wrap. Yeah. When I was in the train club, one of the things they used for making dioramas was that what they make casts for broken arms and broken legs. You can buy it and you just soak it in water, and it's basically already plaster wrapped. It's plaster that is already on the bandage, and they would just soak it in water and just mat it down, and almost instant mountainside. You need very little framing because it's hard as a rock when you're done. It was easy to work with. And I agree, B24. I wasn't a big fan that did with the. Oh, by the way, just off on a tangent. I don't know if you guys know this, but Nick Cage, despite as much fun as everybody makes of him, apparently he's fairly self-aware because he's putting out a new movie, something like The Unbearable Weight of Excessive Talent, where he plays himself in a fictitious situation working for the CIA. I saw the trailer. I mean, it's pretty much a poke in his own eye, but go out and watch the trailer for it. I think you get a kick out of it. He basically gets to play his insane self as his insane self. I mean, how can he go wrong? But I got to give him credit. At least he's self-aware enough to not be. He has no problem with sticking the poking the knife in himself. Kowalski lives. Kowalski, are you out there? Can you hear me, Kowalski? It's like Cleavon Little playing the DJ, I think. Well, anyway, I bet he was the Junk Man. Yeah, I'd heard he was called the Junk Man. Is that Permacene? Okay. Yeah, he says, did any of you guys ever buy those little prefabricated dioramas? I think Airfix put them out for a few years, I guess back in the 70s. And I give them credit. It was a sales thing, but it was just a little vacuform base. And of course, they broke when you try to put any pressure on them and stuff. I remember trying to build those things and make them look like the box art. And of course, the Attack on Pearl Harbor scene had like one airplane, and all the scenes it was just a way to remarket what they already had by adding this little vacuform base. But I was thinking, there are probably a few kids that got into dioramas off of that. So, speaking, you're talking about Eleanor. Yeah, I'd forgotten all the cars had names, and I was chatting with a glue trooper, brought up the point that I had forgotten because one of the cars was a Spider, was a Ferrari Spider. And I happened to make the comment that, like Miami Vice, it's not a convertible. He brought the point that I knew that Enzo had gotten ticked off that Miami Vice had not used a real Spider. But even, apparently, I didn't realize he sued him, which is why they were using Testarossas after that and had to blow the car up. But I didn't realize he'd actually sued him. Of course, I understand Enzo was, hey, Bill, I understand Enzo could be a tough guy to work with. And I'm being kind, I think. The fact that we're even talking about him, he's doing something right and laughing. I'm sure he is. Do I remember? My memory's good. Do I remember a Miami Vice Daytona Spider kit, or maybe that's just a T-shirt I'm thinking of? Because I remember back then everything was Crockett and Tubbs, Miami. And I'm like, have you been to Miami? Brought in China, no idea about Vanishing Point. Yeah. Yeah, I think Ashley probably used the same thing. Now, one of the little diorama things I like is like my lunar module that came with the little monogram lunar lander. That came with the base and everything. And the only thing I didn't really care for was is they etched out where the shadows were supposed to be. I'm kind of like, guys, little lunar surface will be fine. We can figure the shadows out. But I guess they were just trying to do something different. Yeah, it was. Yeah, because she's a wreck too. Sungwar. Yeah, that's true. There are apparently a lot of inside jokes in there. But I've got the note here. So at some point we'll do a Vanishing Point build. And I'm not sure what I'm going to make. Some of those cars are really cool. And John, you got the... Oh, he had to go eat dinner. You got the Mura, so you've got the perfect car because that's one of the cars. And apparently the Monogram did the Miami Vice Spider. Okay. I thought somebody did one, but I couldn't... Revell did both Miami Vice Ferraris. All right. Okay. The Gumball Rally. Yeah, apparently somebody was telling me that one of Leno's Ferrari Muras is was it the Dean Martin's old one? And apparently those cars, what I understand, they had the nasty habit of kind of self-igniting. I'm not really sure what the story was on that. Yeah, the Battle of the Bulge and the Stalag, yeah, those kits weren't, they weren't much. Even as a kid, I knew they were kind of hokey, but didn't stop me from buying them. Okay, I know we've done this before, but just for kicks and giggles, I'll throw it out. Keep your eyes on your feet. And I'm going back to the comic books. What was the original Batmobile? And I give you a hint. It wasn't the Futura. It'll take about 10 seconds for someone to get that one typed in there. Hey, Peter. Okay, seems like you guys like the idea of the Vanishing Point. And I tell you what, instead of... Let's keep this a little more generic, because I know that everybody likes to have a little... We're going to put... car group build movie, what was it? Not hot movie muscle cars. Example, Vanishing Point, gone in 60 seconds. If there's another movie, or if you really want to go to the trouble of making the one with that Devil car or whatever, as long as it's a muscle car or something, one of the, didn't Ron have, it was Grand Theft Auto, if I'm not mistaken. And I think GTA was his first, I want to say directorial debut, but I may be wrong on that. Okay, let's think of some of the kit models of Hollywood cars. I know they made the Vanishing Point car. They made Miami Vice cars. I know they made the Mustang from the Nick Cage movie for Gone in 60 Seconds, but I don't know if they ever. I imagine they made some of the, like Eleanor and them back in the 70s. That would be too easy not to. Eat My Dust, yes. Oh yeah, American Graffiti. Don't forget you got Han Solo hot rod, his Chevy that he cracked up at the end, and who was it, Steve or whoever had the other hot rod, and so those would count. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you could even do the Robert Mitchum's car from was it Thunder Road, and oh my God, I will never forget the Aurora Rat Patrol diorama. That. I didn't appreciate how bad my brother had the Rat Patrol set, my older brother, the Rat Patrol set and the Anzio one. And I'm the one that always sneaking out and playing with those things until I just wore them out. And it wasn't until I got older, I'd like to get one of those. And then I looked and I realized, oh my God, this Anzio set is the worst freaking kit. Everything's wrong. There were no Pershings at Anzio. And just the Jeep is just, ugh. And then I looked at the Rat Patrol set, and I wasn't too thrilled with that either. And people want $300-$400 for these things. I'm like, that's a kit I wouldn't build because it's crap. And I don't think there were any Panthers in North Africa. Could be wrong on that. A lot of the Mach 4s and Tigers. In fact, that's where we first encountered Tigers, and we knocked out about 8 of them. Yeah. Of course. I don't really consider Christine a muscle car. I would think that would be, so. But if somebody was dying to do one, I wouldn't say no. Well, there we go. Christine. What was that? A 58 Chrysler. Wasn't Christine a 58 Chrysler, if I remember right? Well, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot didn't have a muscle car. Well, they did have the big Cadillac convertible at the end. Suzanne Summers T-Bird. There you go. Oh, yeah. Smoking the Bandit Duke's Hazard, the Trans Am. And I saw Bullet 1 down there at Trans Am's of Fort Lauderdale. I think that's what it was. I think it's the name of it. Venezuelan expat started that company. He got his hand on one of Dom's cars from the original Fast and the Furious. He actually has a couple of cars in that movie. He got the original Bullet 1. That's $1 million car. He had a perfect replica of KITT and of the Mach 5 from Speed Racer. Neither one of those were actual new. They were replicas, but they were spot on. And Christine, 57 Belvedere? Okay. Christine, 58 Chrysler Fury. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think Panthers went to North Africa. Yep, the Lamborghini Miura, and we were talking earlier about how that the Miura, although they're $1 million cars now or close to it, they couldn't give them away when they made them. They had a pretty bad reputation, and for a couple of things. I think catching fire was the worst. In fact, the guy who was doing the video had one that had caught fire. He had to have it fully rebuilt, and GTO for Triple X, yeah. For some reason, I tend to gravitate towards the older muscle cars. I realize that new cars can outperform them in every way, but the pre-computer cars, say up to 1970, I guess. I don't know. There's a certain je ne sais quoi about them that maybe because they were the first, and all the cars in the Gumball Rally, including, don't forget, the ambulance, which, by the way, you guys know that was off of a real, that there was actually one of the teams in one of those cross-country races that did do the ambulance trick. That was, in fact, they interviewed the guy who did it, and he did get stopped by the New Jersey State Police, and he did talk his way out of a ticket. And years later, after the trooper had retired, he found him at a car show, and they had a conversation. The Bullet Mustang, one of my still the chase in Bullet is still my favorite Hollywood chase. Partly because you had what's his name, Bill. It was Bill Pullman, the other driver, and I know that Steve did a lot. McQueen did a lot of his own driving. And I saw the car that they made to do the photography with, which is basically a frame with a cameraman hanging it. And I guess one reason I love those things so much is because you realize there was really a guy physically hanging out with a big camera with film and you're hanging out on, something somebody made in their garage, totally exposed. The 7-Up's chasing, another great one. And, of course, you do know that the Charger, if I remember correctly, the Charger in Bullet lost 8 hubcaps, but you couldn't just digitally erase them like you can today. That bit where Roy Scheider ducks his head at the end of the chase, and wow, and Ferraris because. Okay, yeah. I think that sounds like what I read, yeah. Well, I knew it was a mechanical problem leading to the fires. And, when you race car, my guess is anything at the bottom of salt water is so far gone at this point. That would not necessarily apply to something extremely cold water, though. They found Shackleton's ship recently, surprisingly intact. But that's the Antarctic. I mean, it's so cold, virtually nothing can live down there, and I don't think there's any organisms that can eat the ship. It was demasted, but it was sitting upright, basically, more or less, the hull in one piece. Interceptor. Yeah, Mad Max's Interceptor. The other ones were Pursuit. And what was an Australian company that made this? Because it was Commodore. The green Volkswagen. And Herbie the Love Bug technically could operate as a muscle car. He certainly beat Dean Jones. They managed to beat a bunch of muscle cars, the death race cars. Oh my God. I saw the original one. I never saw that movie when it came out. I only saw the original death race with David Carradine, gosh, not 2 years ago. And all Volkswagens, that were... the one with the V1 engine on it just never stopped cracking me up. That movie is so bad, you have to enjoy it. That movie is the reason that beer goes so good with popcorn. And whiskey goes even better. I'll guarantee you, each of us could kick in $1,000, get together, and make a better movie than that one using models. I was watching Sense of Scale, about the Hollywood models. I hadn't realized how often Hollywood uses models for stuff you wouldn't expect. They make models of houses and stuff, and scenes that seem fairly... Why don't you just go rent a gas station or rent a house and shoot the scene there, and maybe they're going to blow something up or flood it or something, but they do a lot of model work that you just don't understand why they're doing models, and I guess it's still cheaper than building a full-size prop or whatever. I remember that the Deep, yeah, that's the one with the moray eel. That's kind of like they were trying to come up with something to get sort of that Jaws factor. They had a giant moray eel that would attack. And they were looking, and who knows, maybe this was, okay, but it's not like you couldn't just get the morphine someplace else. Oh, well, whatever. Now, gold, that's something that would be preserved, any precious metals. Well, the Atocha, I actually saw that display. I held a bar of gold from the Atocha in my hand, and the price tag on it was $140,000. And I was thinking, man, this costs as much as a Piper Navajo. You can sit there and hold it in my hand. Oh, you talking about with Dennis Weaver in Duel? And, oh gosh, what was that truck? Oldsmobile or Peterbilt or something? I forgot. I remember looking it up a while back, and a lot of people have made it. And that is how you make an independent film on a budget. That was made for television. It did so well, it actually got a theatrical release, and they added some extra shots to it. Duel, that's correct. And the thing that makes that movie so terrifying is that it could be any one of us, road rage incident or whatever. Of course, I think the underlying story is that truck driver was supposed to be a serial killer, and that's how he did it. But still, I think we've all had somebody in traffic that started chasing us, so people can identify with that. Corvette Summer. Wow, there's one I hadn't heard in a long time. And I remember when Mark Hamill did the Big Red One, and I was like, wait a minute, he was like the star in Star Wars. The next year he's doing this fifth banana. And apparently they were like, yeah, he had to keep working. It was a Peterbilt. Okay. A Mack. Okay. Peterbilt, Mack. No, I think it was a Peterbilt, but it was like a really old one. Yeah. And it's just like not seeing the shark in Jaws, which is actually not the way it was supposed to be, but it keeps the tension level up that you never see the driver's face. It keeps it mysterious. And I'm sure you guys know that the reason you didn't see the shark until about halfway through the movie in Jaws is because they couldn't get the bloody thing to work. They had to start shooting, so Spielberg said, okay, let's just do some point of view footage until we can get Bruce working. That's what they called him. And ironically, it turned out to make the movie better because you were not overexposed to him. You got just enough of the shark. Yeah, that's exactly right. Annie Potts is the hooker in Corvette's all right. Now she's making a whole bunch of money doing Young Sheldon. Yeah, Big Red One was not a great movie. Although I'll pretty much watch anything with Lee Marvin in it, but still, it was not It was not up. The German Shermans were, I was like, yeah, okay, let's just get, let's just put Balkan Kreuzes on the Shermans. And oh, look, Panthers. Mark Tigers or whatever. One thing it did show is how badly spread out they were in Kasserine. That was we all know that was a disaster. Even Biff out, yeah. In fact, what's his name? Tom Bishop that played Biff. He had a small role in an episode of House, playing the father of one of the patients. It was a girl who was a race car driver, and a lot of these actors, they get the residuals and everything, but if they don't keep acting, the agencies drop them or forget about them, so they have to keep taking roles, even if they're minor roles. And eat my dust, yeah. Okay. They were Israeli. They were they actually have a model that somebody sent me of one of the Israeli Shermans. And, of course, they're Shermans in name only. They basically used the holes and just completely did their own thing with the big guns on them. And I think they may have converted them to diesel. I know they did it with their half-tracks. If you ever notice if you ever build an Israeli half-track model, you'll notice the front does not have the louvers on it like a white half-track because they drop diesels on them. Okay, real quick, just toss in what your favorite Hollywood muscle car is, and gosh, I'm not even sure what mine is. I did like Michael's Charger in Burn Notice, but what is my favorite muscle car from Hollywood? I have to think on that. So many to choose from, but. When I say your favorite, let's just think like if it's Dirty Mary Crazy. Oh wow, I totally forgot about that. That was a Corman film, I think. Well, Hollywood does have an eye for the culture. They kind of helped create it, so it's no surprise that most of the hot rods and everything and stuff would come out of that. But Tom Wilson. Okay, that's it. All right. Oh, don't forget the movie Convoy with Ernest Borgnine playing the sheriff that was going after Chris Christopherson. Yeah, Kit, there you go. Mad Max's Interceptor, General Lee. I still don't know what my favorite one is. A lot of them I really like. You know what? I do know. I'm going to go with, for me, it's going to be Supernatural Baby, Metallicar, those 67 Chevy 2-door or 4-door hardtop with the gargantuan, I forget what 429 or something they put in there. The actors said that you couldn't even hear each other think when they were driving that thing. It was the hero car. Yeah, Bullet Charger. Yeah. For Gran Torino from the movie used to, Gran Torino. And don't forget this. I know you guys are going to hate me for saying this, but you got to throw in the Starsky and Hutch Gran Torino. I know a lot of people hated that way the thing was painted. I'm Starsky, he's Hutch. But, well, yeah, that's the Bullet Charger and and McQueen's Mustang. Although, according to car experts, that Charger would have left that Mustang behind. I'll let you guys fight over that one, but that was what a couple of gearheads were saying, that Charger should just, even though it's a bigger car, it had a lot more power to weight, or so goes the Testarossa. There you go, okay. You can do any, see how true. 68 Charger and Bullet, Starsky and Hutch Gran Torino. Yep, a lot of cool cars out there. And, one thing I just realized, they're making all these movies from old comic books and stuff, but they've never made, I'm Jack, as the Sheriff Buford T. Justice. Jack Benny Stanley's team, you are going back a ways on that one. They never really made anything out of any of the military comic books, although they're doing a lot. World War Hollywood about 20 years ago rediscovered World War II, and now they got generations that know nothing about it. They can get away with anything. Although I got to give them credit, some of the stuff's actually been pretty good. They got a couple more World War II movies coming out now, and don't forget Dom's Charger from the original Fast and the Furious. It scares me. Pull the skin off a custard tart. Yeah. The Muppet Studebaker. Okay. Yeah, I jumped into a 67 Impala recently, and recently, a couple of years, and I've forgotten just how uncomfortable those little cars were, at least when you're my size. Your comments are working, Sungwar. I'm seeing them. That was what I was getting at. John Ashley Smith is just bringing up that they've been doing it, but they haven't been doing like the Haunted Tank or Sergeant Rock or Fury. You got all these really fleshed out characters, and half the stuff's already made for it. I think the Haunted Tank, given people's love of sci-fi and the supernatural, and not to mention that for most of the time they were in a freaking Stuart light tank. And what I love is now one thing about a Haunted Tank that made it very different was it had an integrated crew. As you guys know, the Army was segregated in those days. And there's been one movie that was made a while back about a black soldier who winds up in an armor crew. It's kind of your typical acceptance film. But I'd actually didn't have time to see the whole thing. But they, I think it was a Hellcat crew, I believe. But anyway, I remember that they had a 5-man, if I remember correctly, it was a 5-man crew and a Stuart. And when they, at one point, their tank got knocked out, and they wound up getting a Sherman, and to replace it, had one of them going, holding up a 75mm shotgun. Yeah, now we can roll. Now we can roll with the heavies. And I was kind of like, yeah, and a Sherman, take on a heavy. That's gonna work out well. Somebody found. Andy's talking about Columbo's Peugeot. Somebody found that thing a few years ago in a garage somewhere and got it for next to nothing. And this is when Peter Falk was still alive. They went to remake the later episodes of Columbo where they brought him back, and they had to go find the car, and he leased it to them. The Beverly Hillbillies, somebody did a kit bash of the Beverly Hillbillies car. I don't know if it was in the Fine Scale Modeler magazine, but it wasn't that long ago, and I want to say it was an Oldsmobile, like a 28 Olds or something. But it might have been a car that was converted to a truck or something, but that was a pretty iconic Hollywood car, because if you look at the original vehicle, it didn't look anything like what they were driving, but having the kegs tied on to the fenders and Granny's rocking chair and stuff mounted up high, it made it look very different than the original vehicle. And that was actually, it doesn't get a lot of love as one of Hollywood's one of their more clever automobile creations. It didn't cost much either. Sunbeam Alpine. Was it Get Smart? He drove was it a Sunbeam Tiger? Was that what he was driving? It was an Oldsmobile. Okay. Yeah, there's 4 guys in a Stuart. I'm thinking of the comic that Matt had a 5th guy. I could be wrong. But it seems like they had a loader, gunner, driver, assistant. I may be wrong. Maybe they only had 4 guys in it. I've been in a Stuart. I've actually, when I was a teenager, the junkyard had an old Stuart, and we jumped in that thing, and of course, we were kids, so we could wiggle in there. Oh, my God. All the rusted metal in that thing, I cannot believe we did not cut ourselves and all die of tetanus. It was the 70s. We were tougher back then, right? Yeah, Weird War was interesting. It was kind of like the Twilight Zone of military comics. And I remember the one that sticks in my head is the one about the guy that had the M1 carbine. He named his rifle Rosie, and everybody joked how he treated his rifle like it was a woman. At the end, he gets killed, and as he's dying, a German officer picks the rifle up off him. When it picks it up, the rifle discharges and kills the Nazi. Yeah, Thelma and Louise Thunderbird. Yeah. By the way, real quick. I'd asked earlier, the original in the comic books Batman mobile was a red 2-seat roadster. Sunbeam Tiger was an import with a small block Chevy. Well, it makes sense to have an American engine in it. Then the Pantera had an American engine also, and I think there was another popular sports car that had, because, the way you get parts for it. The original Black Beauty was rotting in a back lot of a studio and sold to a woman who worked at the studio. Drove it for years, collected resin, and bought it from her store. I'm glad he did. What was Black Beauty to begin? Was that Imperial? Now, the Straker car. in UFO and also Paul Foster's car. I actually saw a thing on those two cars, and I think they were originally made for Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, and then they used them in UFO because they were around, and Foster's car wound up getting used in some kind of, years later, some kind of softcore porn thing. They both wound up in junkyards, and I think they got found and salvaged, but I don't think they've been restored. But Straker's car was making it to the car dealerships and stuff and car shows for a while, but... Well, he had like you said, he had a bunch of different cars. It was an Imperial. Okay, I thought it was 65, mid 60s Imperial, and but I always considered that one of the lesser Hollywood cars because it kind of looked like an Imperial. I mean, it had all the gadgetry in it, but it just the outside it didn't really look all that different. And you guys, you probably already know this, but for those who might be new to the channel, the late Andy Yanchus, who contributed a lot to this channel and was really the guy behind the Aurora files, sadly he passed recently, but Andy and some other guys at Aurora are the ones who built the two 110 scale Imperials that did the rotation scene in the Green Lantern. And they did some really nice work. They were made out of block wood. They carved and made all the metal parts and everything. And Andy was apparently hell on wheels in the wood shop. And he had some pictures of them. And nobody knows where those models went. Just like there's some debate about where the original 3-foot Enterprise went. There's a belief that you got to remember that they had to lease the models from Aurora. They couldn't buy them because Andy and his guys weren't Hollywood Union shop guys. So they could lease it, but they couldn't buy it. And they leased it, and then they disappeared. I'm pretty sure they just wound up in somebody's private collection. But the problem is, so many years has gone by, I suppose somebody could go public, hey, I got this for sale, and probably wouldn't get any trouble. I don't know, maybe they would. But somebody's got some cool Hollywood cars in their collection, other models. Had the toy Fireball for my deal. A little before me. For me, that would have been a choking hazard. Yep, there's Rockford Firebird. And don't forget, they also made a model of his dad, Rocky's truck, also. As well as Billy Carter's truck. Which Revell bought for Billy Carter so that they could make them. Hey, we're going to give you this truck so we can make a model of it. Ooh, okay. The British Jack painted car. That's true. You couldn't get any more British than that if you tried. The space. Oh, well. Okay, how many of you had the Major Matt Mason moon base? And now Venus was Sylvia Anderson. I think that's right. She did she also do Lady Penelope? Oh, well. So the nice thing is that a lot of the kits that were made of these cars, some of them were already in production as other stuff. They just had to rebadge them. Kind of like Baba Black Sheep. They just took the Corsair and the Zero and just, let's put a Baba Black Sheep box on it. Same freaking kit. They changed the decals a little bit for the Corsair, so you had that arrow on the wing and the tail, I think. But that was only because the airplane already had it painted on there. When they hired, none of those planes were repainted, which is why you notice they're not actually wearing the correct paint scheme. They're all dark blue, which was a very, very late war paint scheme. The paint scheme they should have had was the Pacific Tricolor. And... gosh, every one of us threw away $30,000 of the toys at today's collector prices. It got me so nutty, I still have all the empty boxes from all the kits I've built. And since I started doing this, I still have them all in the garage, just sitting there. I'm like, they might be worth something someday. You had the moon base. I wanted the moon base so bad. All I got Major Matt Mason and nothing else. Okay, him and his helmet. I think might have a Sergeant Storm. But I was space crazy as a kid. I wanted to be an astronaut right up until they told me, well, you got to go to test pilot school. That sounds good. Well, you got to be an officer of the Air Force. Okay, well, you got to go to college. Okay, you got to get an engineering degree. All right, that means math. Ooh, there's going to be a problem. By the way, real quick note, if you guys are into collecting Major Matt Mason, be careful. Because apparently they were made in Mexico after they're made in the States, and a lot of people try to pass off the cheap reproductive they had made of inferior materials, and they try to pass those off as collectibles. And there's a couple of ways you can tell them. I forget offhand what it was, but the real collectors know it. But I'm kind of like, yeah, it's okay. I'm not paying $300-400 for any of that stuff. So Billy Carter appeared at a hobby show and Revell booth to promote the kit and is known for getting drunk and peeing. I have heard that story before from more than one person, that Jimmy Carter got drunk and peed on a bush or in a potted plant or something. Like, well, that's what they get for not having proper facilities. Yep, that is true. The VMF 214 did have some birdcage Corsairs. They also had some of the ones with the half bubble top, but I think that the framing in them. They were F4U-1s, and I think there were 1As. And they might have had some 1Ds. People forget a lot of the Corsairs they're flying today are post-war models. And the thing with a lot of iterations, you see one with 3-bladed prop and a circular cowling, then you see one with 4-bladed props and chin scoops, because they were adding stuff to them. That book I've been reading on the Secret Horsepower Race, it is absolutely unbelievable how many iterations of every engine were made, and all the changes they had to make, and the domino effect of you change one thing and there's all these things get changed, and as you're chasing the changes, trying to get everything running, to get a coherent engine. Meanwhile, the war's still going on, and most part of the book is actually before the war, but there's a point where you have to freeze the specs, and it talks about limitations that were known issues with a lot of the engines, the DB601s, the Merlins. Every country had certain advantages. It just goes into these incredible details. One thing I didn't realize, and I'm sure a lot of the gearheads out there already know this, is that a lot of these airplanes had to have like fairly serious maintenance, about 25 hours of flying. Those engines were modern marvels, but they didn't last very long. They're burning up valves and everything else, and everything was working right at the edge of the metallurgy of the day. Heat dissipation was probably their biggest problem, because heat ruins everything in an engine. Problems with fuel, with oil frothing. The British were ahead because they had high pressure oil pumps that would compress the oil, so it wouldn't do that. Americans did 1-to-1, so they had problems with frothing. One backfire could blow the whole engine. It was one of the reasons the Americans were so into radial engines. A lot of problems in a way, but radials have push rods, and the inline engines were getting these 4-valve engines that were really pretty impressive, with the big overlapping valves and everything, that were doing all kinds of magic. One German company, I want to say it was Umo, didn't use a conventionally seated valve. It used one that had a lip on it, and it was like they were getting incredible pressure and efficiencies out of it, but they would burn up. And I'm sorry, didn't mean to. It's just the more I read this book, I was like, how did you fix? And it goes into how they fix all the problems. And you realize how a handful of engineers built the world we live in today. I'll bet you less than 10,000 people in the last 200 years, maybe less than that, have done the key work that built the world we live in today. I bet you go through history and eliminate 1,000 critical people, and we would live in a very different world. The ME-262 engines were good for between 5 and 25 hours, and one of them that they lost after the war, we had hired a German to our guys were flying him. We had a couple of German pilots that we hired that we trusted. It was Willie Hoffman, and he was flying Whizzer's favorite one. Watson's Whizzers was what they called the guys, and Colonel Watson, his favorite one to fly was one with the big 57mm gun in the nose, a single, the anti-tank gun. I'm glad they didn't get that into combat. It actually had the nose gear modified to rotate sideways to retract, because that gun ate up everything in the nose. But Hoffman was ferrying that airplane, and an engine exploded, and he barely got out of it with his life by parachuting out. Anyway, turned out that the American mechanic admitted that he had failed to do a proper inspection, had a cracked turbine blade. They found cracked turbine blades on those things probably every third or fourth or fifth flight. You could get 25 hours out of the engine if you later on, if you're actually, I think the early engines a lot longer, a little bit better material, but you really had to baby them. You couldn't make rapid throttle adjustments or anything. And as incredible as that airplane was, it had a ton of limitations. And the pilot that got burned up real bad, their ace, Mackie Steinhoff, had taken off in a 262. And it was just, when they were in the air, they were dangerous. And they had very short duration. So Mustangs, and it was Gunther Rahl talked about the Mustangs, said, we're not going to take, because late in the war, we had so much air power. We could send fighters with the bombers, we could send fighters patrolling out, and we could send fighters doing ground attack. And there were missions where all you did was find German airfields in orbit and wait for the jets to come back flat on. And he said they got a lot of them in the traffic pattern. And the Americans were like, you dang Skippy, we're not going to go out and play with these guys. They're flying jets. And wait till they're out of gas, got the gear and flaps down. So they were landing on dirt roads and cow pastures and any place they could find. And have a notoriously weak nose gear also. We ripped the nose off of one that we tried to tow. And if you see some pictures, you'll realize there's a cable that goes on the nose wheel to the main gear, so that when you pull the tow rod on the main gear, it pulls on that cable. It pulls by when you pull on the nose wheel, that cable pulls on the main gears. So you could just rip the nose right off. Fortunately, that airplane was very modular. You could remove the entire rear section, entire front section, less than an hour and bolt a new one on. It was all built in sections that were pretty easy to replace. The 163 is the one you wouldn't get me near. I don't even like getting that there in a museum. I mean, you literally have two corrosive acids on each side of you that blow up on contact. And they wore that special suit, but that wasn't going to save you. One bullet hole or even a bumpy landing, crack one of those tanks and Tang came from the Moon Landing Project. I actually like Tang. I remember the old Tang commercials. Oh my gosh. By the way, I know I've told you this before, NASA did not invent Velcro. It did not come from the space program. It was invented during the Second World War. Velcro is a brand name. It's actually hook and loop faster. NASA just made it popular. Mecha. Battlefield mechs. Yep, melted the pilot. Come in and find a puddle of pilot on the floor. There's two human cut away because of burning. Well, those old engines are going to burn up sooner or later anyway. I didn't know they still make. I guess they do make. Do they still make Tang? I didn't even know that. I have to go get some. It goes good in Tang? Gin. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too anxious to go jump in it. Oh, my wife and I just watched Operation Crossbow with George Papard. And, for a movie made when it was in the 60s, special effects weren't that bad, And it's true that Hannah Reich did fly the V1, and it had killed some people. They finally figured it out. I've heard a French designer, and I've heard a Swiss designer, but it definitely came from Europe. Vodka, you know what? I think vodka would go better in Tang than gin. We probably still have some here if I can find it. C-Stoff and T-Stoff. Yep. Boom, boom. Instant ass. And by the way, as I'm sure you guys know, some of that stuff, I forget which one it was, burned automatically if it touched anything organic. And they showed a demonstration where they just drop a few drops on a piece of burlap, which apparently is organic material. And I was like, woohoo! Yeah! Send me in a bath of that stuff and launch me into combat. Ooh, man. So, anywho, do you ever read the paper lunar module? No, I remember what you're talking about. Actually, I might have, but I don't think so. Duct tape, which, by the way, is called duct tape because apparently it was something like dual use something tape. Dual use cloth tape, I think, or durable utility cloth tape. I think that's what duct stood for. And I think that history guy just did somebody just did a thing on the duct tape, how I got started. It was a cloth tape, and it was literally something that was invented by a woman who was trying to make something work. And she showed it to the War Department. They didn't have any interest in it. She showed it to somebody else who did, and hope she got some money out of the deal. Because Carlo Ponti, that is correct. I was going to bring that up. Sophia Loren has 10 minutes in the movie that you can completely remove her character from the movie, and it changes absolutely nothing. Okay? And he did that just so he could use her name and give her top billing because she was a big international star. And my wife was furious about the way they treated her character. I guess they were trying to get some shock value or something. But and of course the whole New York missile, the movie is fiction. There was an Operation Crossbow. They just kind of borrowed the name, and it did involve the V1s. But it also brought out some stuff that was true, like the British photo analysts finding the V1s and stuff and bombing Peenemünde and all that. And then they went to Nordhausen and built stuff underground. So they used enough of what really did happen to make a decent fiction story, you know. It's a movie, and it's worth watching. But well, it was sent to me recently by Blue Trooper. Also, have a couple other movies they sent me, and the one I haven't seen yet is The One That Got Away, which I believe is about the only German to escape. I think it was escape a camp in Canada, get all the way back to Germany. So yeah, look, she's like 84 years old or 86 years old, and apparently still going strong. Ponti was, 34 years her senior or something like that. Oh, well. And 100-mile-an-hour tape, 300-mile-per-hour tape, yeah, speed tape. By the way, that speed tape will come off. I've had it separate on me in flight. And it can make a lot of racket when it does. We had a piece over the windshield. They were curing a new windshield, and so we had the speed tape over it. And part of it peeled up and it started making this real loud buzzing noise. It was vibrating against the. I had to turn back. And we had just left Detroit. It's back when I was flying at Mesa. Yeah, I got to give them credit, though. At least the guys, when they made that movie, they put enough science, talked about combustion being, and vibration, which were real problems. In fact, that's what kept the F1 engine from operating for a long time. They couldn't figure out the combustion problem. Finally, they figured it out and put that waffle pattern in there and got the fuel distribution right. And I do still dabble in model rocketry. I haven't been out forever. I've got some motors I need to use. I want to go launch that Mercury again. The problem is I got to drive so far to do any of that stuff because there's no place around here. I suppose I could try it out at the park, but get 2 or 3 shots off, grab your stuff, and run before somebody, There is a place about 18 or 20 miles from here, but if I'm going to go ahead and do that, I'm going to take everything. So, RCs and everything. I started off in the Beech 1900, and then I went to the Canada Regional Jet, then the Embraer Regional Jet, and now I'm in the Embraer 190. And the turboprop. Now I flew Navajos before that and a lot of small props, but I'll tell you right now, a Grummatag, that's a good little airplane, but yeah. But the Beech 1900s, the Beechcraft product, those things are bloody bulletproof. You can get away with so much in those. Rule of thumb, if it moves and it shouldn't, use duct tape. If it should move and doesn't, use WD-40. We used to have a lot of F-18s here because they had the RAG, the Replenishment Air Group here and they did a lot of training at Cecil. But a lot of that moved away, and now it's mostly the P-8 Poseidon. There's still a couple of P-3s flying around, and Customs has some of the old P-3s also, and I think so does Customs, and there's one other government agency I think that has some. But it's mostly P-8 Poseidons, which are based on the 737. Saw one fly over with those bomb bays and everything open. That is not an airliner. That is very much a bomber. And It was I don't know why I had everything hanging, probably doing some kind of demo because I do training here. But I was like, wow, that thing had a lot of course, a lot of it's like sonobuoys and stuff like that, but it carries boom booms too. And, it's an impressive machine. Basically, if I understand it, it's a short 737, 700 fuselage on 800 engine and wings. So it's really overpowered and got a lot of wing on it. Is it expensive? Basic Estes model rockets, you're going to spend $3 or $4 a shot for the engine. Cost you about $100 to get all this, depending on unless you make your own, to get all the stuff you need to get it set up. It's not an expensive hobby. And you can use wadding and a motor and an igniter on each launch. So $5, $6, $7 a shot for a C engine. Don't do it when it's windy if you're in anything other than a really big area, because those those things will drift a long way. Okay, JM, take care of yourself. Glad you made it. What kind of demo? Yeah, by the way, there's also, I didn't realize this, there's a hobby out there, and I forget what they call it, but where basically people are putting rocket engines in scale models and making them fly, including, like, they'll make a scale model Saturn V, like a Revell one, and then they'll jam rocket engines, and apparently, you weight it right, it works. You better have everything glued down tight. Also, I didn't realize, but there is a rocket RC hobby, and one guy's that built this big Vulcan, and I think they had like a 3-foot, 4-foot wingspan, but a like an F motor in it, and he shoots the thing up, and once it hits off, you fly it back as a glider. And he said he was able to keep it in the air about 3 minutes, which is about as much charge as I got on the ME-262 before the batteries died. And he showed me launching. I was like, well, that's different. So there are some people out there that finally combine model rocketry and RCs. And, but then again, when I was a kid, people, if you want a camera, you had to be able to fly an RC helicopter, which is still pretty tricky. Now everybody's got the drones at auto level and everything. One of the things I thought about building, and I'd like to if I ever get the time, I want to make a flying lunar module. Now, it had to be flown indoors. But what I figure I would do is build a balsa wood frame, put that light gold foil on it, build the structure out of balsa, just cover the outside. The upper section, same thing, balsa, covered by probably paper. Then put maybe a helium balloon in the upper section, and then put a drone in the lower section. I could just fly it around like the lunar module as a drone. And of course you would have the helium balloon just to make it light enough that the drone would primarily be used just for the little bit extra needed for lift. So I engineered that out, fighting with the Guilos B-25. Yeah, that's a tough kit. That's pretty complicated. I've seen some of these Guilos kits, so the guys make them and they put the heavy paper skins on them, and they make almost plastic scale model detailed. They don't fly, but they make really beautiful models out of them. I converted a Beaumont model kit. Oh, there you go. That probably the smallest engine would really be the little AAAs or A engines. Yeah. So I said, put a drone in the bottom section, and that would steer it around. Yeah, I hope you're well, Shaggy Buds. I hope you're doing better. I know you got hurt really bad. Model rocket kits. Okay, I'll do something with them. I got in the habit of collecting old toilet paper tubes and making throwaway rockets. We'd shoot them off the beach. They didn't have a recovery system. And that way, we just wait for them to wash back up on shore. I mean, we had to throw our trash away. But the kids could launch them at night. Oh, they had fun doing that. Let me just put this... So the like I said, I spent all day working on that music. I didn't have a chance to really get anything put together for us, but I'm going to keep these notes here, so I'll add that to the list. I need to put in my little book here, run the whole channel off one of these little booklets that was sent to me. And I got stuff going on here next week. Like I say, I only got the one day off, so I'm going to be kind of missing in action. Looking at my schedule, I don't think I'm going to take a road build with me on the next trip, because I don't think I have any time for it. It's, let me just check real quick. And not ready to go back to work. Yeah, oh God, no. Good Lord. Nope. Nope, not taking a model with me on the next trip. I have to get up so early in the morning. Actually, we get back late, too. Nichrome wire. When last time you said nichrome wire? Yeah. I think nichrome is what people like to heat up to cut foam with. And I think that's also what they use for using rocket igniters. And we used to make our own igniters for the rockets by taking the twist tie on bread, stripping it off so you had the wire, wrapping around a couple of match heads and wedge it up in there. And they usually worked, but the problem was the igniters cost money, and we didn't have money, but we had matches and we had bread, because you could always spin the bread and tie it off. But of course, your mom comes in. Why are all the loaves of bread tied off? Where do they? Oh, Mom, we lost the twist ties. Build a model on autopilot. Yeah, man building a model airplane while flying a real airplane. Aren't you supposed to be flying the plane? Shh, I'm busy. Yeah, that's going to fly. Pardon the pun. Yeah, models are a good way to keep your focus going. And, by the way, I cut it out because when I tried to do the narration of the song at the beginning, which just was horrible. I mean, even I wouldn't put that on the internet, and that tells you something. But I had done a little voiceover, and I had talked about, just started rambling. How many of you guys, either working on a model as a kid, either messed up, or even today as an adult, messed up your kitchen table or something like that, and like tried to hide it with a tablecloth, or spilt something on the couch and just tried to turn the pillow over? I'm not admitting anything. I'm just curious. But I can remember getting yelled at one or two times about, what are you doing with it? How did you cut yourself? I don't know, Mom. It was not with an X-Acto knife that I'm not allowed to have. How did you burn yourself? I don't know, but it was not blowing up model airplanes with firecrackers that I'm not allowed to have. Whatever happened, that wasn't it. How did we survive the 70s? Never mind the 60s. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Toast, yeah, that would definitely... You're toast, literally. Hey, I built a balsa with Japanese Zero by... I had actually built the Guilos one, and it was the first Guilos kit that I converted to RC. Way overpowered it. Thanks, Ken. And it literally tore the wings off in flight. I mean, it literally just went so fast, a wing just came off. And so that engine got cycled through into the Stuka also, which I wound up cratering on camera. And so you were talking about the somebody said something that made me think of, oh yeah, so I had the instruction sheet left over from the Zero, and I had a bunch of scrap balsa, include some sheets. I was I cut out the paper and just glued it onto the wood and cut it out, and basically made another one just by cutting up the instructions and gluing it to wood, and built the fuselage for a whole nother Zero. That was what I wound up skinning in balsa, then laminating. And I tried using that, and I made the mold, which I think I finally threw away after several years, because I was thinking about trying to make a mold where I could inject the foam and make Zero fuselages. And it was just an experiment. I bought the stuff they use for fiberglassing boats, the gel coat and everything. And that's a procedure. And man, when they say you got to have it smooth, I mean, it's got to be polished smooth. And I see these guys that build these airplanes like that, these models that fly at ridiculous speed. They're not that big. I don't know how they can see them. Never mind fly them. Little pylon racers. And they put them in their oven and bake them to harden them and everything. and that is artisanship. Well, Ken's not here to defend himself, so it makes the perfect person to blame. Or as my younger brother would say, I don't care if it hurts your feelings. It was funny, and it was at your expense. Oh, yeah, me and another buddy set an entire farmer's field on fire using bottle rockets. They don't even go up, boom. Well, apparently some of them are still smoldering when they come down. It was dry. It was outside of Havana, Florida. And, hey, there's fire out there. We had to call the fire department and everything. I'm like, I don't know what happened to the fire. Maybe it was lightning in the middle of a beautiful night. But anyway, spray painted the carpet. There you go. I pulled that stunt a couple of times. Sliced the bedspread. Yep. Oh, I cut up a couple of tablecloths, and one of them pretty recently. Oh, don't think I haven't heard the last of that. Oh, hey, Ken, you're there. Whatever they say, Ken, I didn't blame you for anything. But you guys may remember when I was doing the Cadillac and the Astute submarine and the Flying Sub, because of the grungy weather, cold weather, I was working inside. And my wife had put a... I do things like that. So she gave me the folded over tablecloth, said, here, work on that so you don't mess up the table. And it protected it from paint and everything, but not the X-Acto knife. Which then apparently led to a little seepage with the glue, and now we have a very interesting look. Oh, look, it looks just like Jesus. The shape, glue stain looks like Jesus. I should be in Ripley's. So, what can I say? A model happens. There's a t-shirt. Model happens. Oh, you didn't miss anything, John. Nobody tell John what we were saying behind his back. We were blaming Ken for everything. But, so, what else am I going to... So, that, like I say, I didn't have a whole lot. I was mainly wanted to see if you guys want to do that 60, a build on the, cars from Gone in 60 Seconds, which I assume refers to a car thief being able to boost one in less than 60 seconds. But I think the idea of a group muscle build, muscle car, movie muscle car build is a better, that way, people have more options. And, so let me see, where's my master list? The master list. Okay, that's not it. I'll find it, but I've got the notes here, so that'll go on the list. Of course, you guys know when we finish the watercraft build, the next one will be the airliner build, and I'm already getting some pictures on that, and some people doing some beautiful work out there. And it's okay if your ears are ringing, John, just so long as they're not burning. And if you want to grab those Rodin kits or anything that's made in Ukraine, you may want to get them now, because I got a bad feeling. Kolchak's convertible Mustang, yeah, there's a forgotten Hollywood car, but it was consistent throughout the show. In fact, when they made the new Night Stalker a couple of years ago, I think they put him in a Mustang, a new one, but I think they put him in a Mustang again. Yeah, it really is, Fred. By the way, the thing on somebody mentioned Kolchak, and it sparked a thought that unfortunately I didn't lasso it properly. It's trying to get away from me. Oh yeah, you guys remember the X-Files? Obviously, I'm sure everyone here's seen it. You probably know that was it Chris Carter who made that. Said that he was inspired by Kolchak the Night Stalker. He wanted to make a film that, a show that dealt with that. Even though Mulder's FBI, within the agency, is still the odd man out, he wanted to be the guy that was always facing off the power structure like Kolchak was. And I thought that was a good formula. I think the X-Files was a adequate follow-on, a worthy follow-on. What is the criteria of a muscle car? Well, Brian, I think we're talking about... No, I agree. The remake definitely lacked the je ne sais quoi of the original. We're talking about a muscle car. We're talking about a hot rod. So one of the chase cars from Bullitt, sports car or a high-powered performance car from the movies. The Vanishing Point car, somebody was talking about Dennis Weaver's car in Duel. I don't see that as a muscle. That's a Hollywood car, but it's not a muscle car. Something the Fast and the Furious, or I think Gone in 60. Any of the cars from Gone in 60 Seconds would do it. The Miami Vice Ferraris, or cars that made a guest appearance. They had some guest appearances that were there. I don't think Beans Mini would count, but I guess Austin Powers British Union Jack Jaguar would, because that is a Jaguar. It's still a muscle car. And so we're talking about performance cars, but from the movies. And the idea is not to do the same type. It's to actually, exactly. Eat My Dust Camaro is a perfect example. I guess I'm not really thinking about one-offs like the Black Beauty or the Batmobile, because they're kind of in their own category. We're talking about Hollywood's representation of muscle cars or performance cars. So I would say probably the bottom echelon of that might be Rockford's Firebirds. You can call that a muscle car, but that would, it was a pretty stock car, but it would be the bottom of the rung that would qualify. Like I say, Baby from Supernatural, because that's a true muscle car. Yeah, the Mad Max car, though. Yeah, if it's got a shaker top, it pretty much counts. That would. Was it a Duster? I don't know. Duster, depending on how it's equipped. I don't know. He had trouble getting away from a truck. I didn't realize it was a Duster. I was thinking it was something more mundane. A Valiant. Yeah, it was a Plymouth Valiant. Yeah, okay. No, the boat's not a car. Now, you could do the Bat boat for the watercraft build, but that's due in a couple of weeks. Actually, the Catalinas kind of were. They had a big honking motors on them, and they could move. They were used as police cars a fair bit. Pretty much anything, that counts as, it's built for speed, power and speed. So if it's a jacked up truck or something, but remember, we're talking about Hollywood stuff. So, something from, but we'll get to this in a long time, but, it would be, I guess you'd have to count some of the James Bond cars too, because, he drove some, stuff that definitely would qualify. And, but when you say muscle car, I tend to think of American Detroit Iron, and, but certainly, Ferraris and that kind of stuff, they definitely count. Let's see. Believe it or not, I'd have to say the Munster Coach and Dragula actually would have to count, because the one's a dragster and the other one definitely had a big motor in it. I don't think the Catalina I don't know. That's the Starsky and Hutch car, I guess we have to count because it was supposed to be a muscle car, but I know a lot of people who are love ragging on that car. So the Catalina's got to have a 421 to be a muscle car. That's the word. What was the car in I Dream of Jeannie? I think that was a Catalina convertible. I believe Tony Nelson's was that or a GTO, but I think it was a Catalina. I tell you what we'll probably do is I'll probably come up with a list of movies that would count. We're starting out with the cars from Gone in 60 Seconds. Now, if it's going to be Gone in 60 Seconds, you got to accept the Ferraris and the Lambos and stuff that were on the theft list. But they can't all be Eleanor. But We'll do the. Let's see. Let me make some notes here. Let's talk about some American muscle car movies. We got Vanishing Point, Gone in 60 Seconds, Eat My Dust, Grand Theft Auto. American Graffiti. Let's see. What are some other muscle car movies? Now, we're not talking about race cars. I mean, we're not talking about cars made for the track. We're talking about muscle cars, the kind of thing you drive down the street, kids would hot rod out. What was that in the movie? Was it Hollywood Nights or something? They had a couple of, I think it was like Cobra and a, okay, Steve brings up a good point. Monsters are not muscle car. A muscle car is a stock production car with a large motor and suspension. You know what? I like that. Let's use that as the guideline. This has to be a stock car with a big motor and suspension, and it's got to be a movie car. So Corvette Summer, okay. The only waiver I'm going to give on that are the Gone in 60 Seconds cars. Some of them are foreign, only because that was the original idea. So we'll give a little wiggle room on that. Death Proof, okay. Ooh, no, not Death Race, because those are. Oops, I just wrote Death Race. Death Proof. Oh yeah, Gumball Rally. Yeah, Hollywood. It was Hollywood Nights. Okay. You know, it says a lot about the culture of Hollywood, the influence it has. That here we are. We're literally around the globe. We've got 99 people watching from everywhere from New Zealand to the States to Canada, UK, and all over the US. And oh yeah, Thunder Road, definitely Thunder Road. And we throw these names out, and everybody knows what the reference is. I don't know if Macon County Line constitutes a muscle car. I know they had the police cars there. Jethro Bodine was chasing them around, but I don't forget what they I forget what the kids were driving. But yeah, I just find it interesting that oh yeah, absolutely Bullet, no question about that. And oh yeah, and Supernatural. I'm just gonna put Baby. Although their dad's truck, one of the Glue Troopers built Winja, their old man, his truck with all the weapons and everything, and. How many times can aluminum foil be used? I guess we got to count the Dukes of Hazzard. That would I'll just put DOH. But we get the idea. And I'll put a list out and we'll come up with some else. Of course, that build won't be for a while because we have a whole list of stuff in front of it. I was thinking about maybe the next country build being a Ukrainian build, not only either something made in Ukraine or a kit made in Ukraine or some Ukrainian military. A Vanishing Point, Dirty Mary Crazy, those are all, yep, the 70 CUDA counts. Smokey and the Bandit, the Trans Am counts. But I'm not sure if Ukraine build is maybe a little too on the nose. We'll talk about that later. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Now, the Blues Brothers was just a Monaco. I don't know if I'd consider that a muscle car or not. A wore-out police car. Oh yeah, Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah. It's got cap motor, cap shocks, cap suspension. The day I get out of prison, my own brother picks me up in a police car. It's an all Mount Prospects police cruiser. They were practically giving them away. God, I love that movie. The sequel to it was horrible. I mean, I don't know about Grease. I suppose if it's a hot rod, you know, hot rods from hell. But remember, we're talking muscle cars, which means it's a stock car. We're not something that's built from scratch, not a jalopy or something that was, you know, hey, I took the frame off of this and dropped the 427 on it. You know, we're talking about a muscle car, you know, conventional muscle car, not one-offs or handmades. Oh, God. Canadian Ukraine build cabbage roll over maple syrup. With poutine. How about cars the royal family build? That one's getting past me. Hot rods from hell. Oh, absolutely drive crazy. Heck yeah. I don't know why, but I love that movie. You drink from the skull. The one thing you can't do to a man was can't kill a man who's already dead and lying in beer or whatever, sloshing out of the skull. I'm going to drink out of your dead skull. That movie was about as Nick Cage as you can get. That and what was that other one? Wicked Games. Just and like I said, if you guys didn't catch earlier, I just saw the trailer for the Nick Cage movie where he plays himself, and it was the incredible weight of being over talented or something, or extreme. The incredible weight of extreme talent or something like that. I'm like, I don't think they have come out with anything that self-aware in a long, long time. It's like bottling the crazy and sticking it into a, you know, like they did with nuclear energy. They learned to operate it in a reactor. They managed to take the Nick Cage crazy and put it in a box where they could control it. And it's got old Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian, as his co-star. You just go watch the 2-minute trailer. Heck, the trailer was funny. I just hope it wasn't the only funny part in the movie. And they're actually spoofing his actual movies. I mean, like he's got the gold 45s from Castor Troy, you know. You know, it's nice when you have the rights to all that stuff and you can actually spoof your own real world stuff. I mean, there's just this is a bizarre, it's almost like a walking wall, fourth wall break. Okay, I'm gonna have to go watch Hot Rods from Hell now. Everybody's talking about it. You could use the Volkswagen bug from Coppola. His okay. Just keep an eye on the time. And we got about 20 minutes left. So, put the notes over here for right now so I don't lose them. Head over here by my doctor's appointment. And a bill I'm pretty sure I paid. Pretty sure. So, what are you guys working on right now? I've got the Pibber, the PT boat, the little Ming cartoon Lexington, the Japanese aircraft carrier, the Kafir, this Island Earth Stinson, which I did get a little work done. I coated it in black just to give it a strong dark base because I'm going to use yellow. Then I shot the window areas with gloss coat today, and then I'm going to tape those off and just leave them glossy black. Then I'm going to shoot the whole thing in yellow. And then once that has hardened and has a nice clear coat on it, then I'm going to tape it off and hit it with the blue. The propeller is going to be a little bit of a trick. It's got 3 colors on that prop, and it's not something I can kind of ignore because there is actually a lot of really good photos that show the propeller up close. And some of the wooden props, and I remember this when I was learning in small planes, because my dad was a very, very active private pilot. and there were so I was around general aviation aircraft a lot, and the wooden props, they would do a lot of things to try to extend the life on them. And one of the things that was very, very common was to put metal leading edges, or at least metal tips or curved tips on props. And some of them had like this black laminate or paint or something on them. I'm not really entirely sure what the idea behind it was, but they, see if I can find that picture real quick. But they, when you're doing it in 1/48 scale, it makes it pretty complex to get it looking right. And but I want to do it because I figure it'd also be a nice little challenge to see if I can make one that's with all that detail on it. Because you've got the base wood propeller, you've got the black tip, and then curved around the leading edge and curling around the tip, you have the metal, the tacked on metal plate, which is here it is. Okay, you see the propeller. You got an aluminum spinner on it, and then you, of course, I got to paint that silver around the air inlets. But then you've got the wooden prop. And then they painted the bottom 40% of it, I believe that's black. And then they add that metal leading edge and tip to it to prevent wear. And so that's going to be an interesting thing to get right. See if I can find some figurines. And I did find some tires. Ironically, they came off the Kafir, because the Kafir tires are just the right size and shape to make the tires, because the kit actually has molded on spats that this plane didn't have. So that's what I'm going for. And I'll see if I can find something nice and white and round to make a stand for it, and maybe put a white piece of paper curved around it or something, give sort of a faux backdrop. But I'll be and I'm going to have to print. Was it November 97422? I wonder if that airplane's still around. Huh? You know what? I can check real quick. November 97422. Let's see. FAA registry. Man, technology's something. Number inquiry. November. Okay, let me go back so I can see the picture. Let's see, November 97422. 97422. 97422. Apparently it has been reserved. Fee paid. Purge date. It is a reserved in number. Apparently not currently attached to an airplane. I wonder if some movie fan, reserved the number so he could buy a Stinson and do it up like that or something. That's odd. I've seen that happen before. 97422. Yeah. Oh well. Who knows what happened to the original Stinson? Those planes change hands so often. Say one for these aliens, the Metalunas, at least they put railings around the stuff. I watch the Star Wars movies and I'm kind of like, does the Empire not believe in railings? Anybody ever notice that there's never any railings? I mean, how do you guys not have all these accidents? Let's see, I'll read what you guys are working on. Is there any company that makes models of crop dusters? There are custom companies that will make one, but I don't know of anybody that specifically makes them. And I've seen some really beautiful crop duster models, and they are not cheap. Let's see. Yeah, I knew the dead stick was for the prop stop of an airplane. Yeah, very much so. Tell you what, instead of craning my neck back, let me just switch to my computer glasses. Ooh, look at that. Ah, 33 resident of the prop. Flow-torp shielded prop. Okay. Just look at what some of you guys are building up here. '69 Nova. Stormtroopers come cheap. By the way, I was looking at, just stumbled onto it. It's amazing. Star Wars came out, what, 77? So it's been around a long time, 50 years or so, pushing it. So can't do math, 45 years. I was at the 40th anniversary in Orlando, and they had all the actors there. I didn't see them because they were up in, you had to be in like, VIP, but they were on the monitors, and had a full-size TIE fighter there and about a half-scale Imperial Walker, which actually fit in the Orlando Coliseum. Anyway, I think I got a video of it out there, and it was all being live streamed, and we were there. We got our face, hey, look, it's us, So anyway, what was I mentioning? Oh, I totally forgot what I was mentioning. Boy. Stormtroopers come cheap. Yeah. They're still finding footage that was shot that was never used and made its way on YouTube. They found the extended scene before Darth Vader comes into the room with the admirals, where one of them is talking about, this battle station's still vulnerable. He's griping about the Sith Lord before, but that got cut out. And so there was some backstory that never made it in there. And another scene that popped up recently was that, you said Stormtroopers come cheap. They had a scene where Chewie and Han are walking through shooting the place up, and they waste about 6 Stormtroopers in a hallway and just literally jump over their corpses, and I was like, yeah, I think you could have left that one out. It's pretty much turned into they were turning into an episode of The Mandalorian. F-102 Case X-Wing. I think you mean the Case X X-Wing, or Case X. The early ones had the flared tips on the tips that stuck straight out, and the Case 20 wings had the cuff that went all the way to the wing tip, and that helped with the low speed handling. Yeah, Case 10 wing, that's how you can tell it's an earlier one. I know, I actually had a college professor that flew 102s and 106s, and he was saying that when they put the Case 20 wing on it, it was a big improvement because they had some issues, especially with low time guys. Getting close to deep stall and really start wobble on them. But you're right, Stormtroopers do come cheap. 28mm Civil War guys. Okay. There's a SPAD from the 1960s, then the Waco glider. Waco, that's a CG-4A. They had one of those that was built from scratch for the Fort Campbell Museum, which is probably still there because none of them survived the war. And that was, it did what it was supposed to do. I didn't realize we had glider troops until the 1950s. I think 1951 or 54 was the last training exercise, and they said, okay, we don't need this anymore. Helicopters have matured, but I didn't realize they kept gliders around that long. Oh, really? That's cool. Vader's helmets. Yeah, a story about his buddy. You see him at the end of the movie, Biggs. But they had a whole scene with him at the beginning. Russian X-Wing. Okay, why not? Priest, half-track, 3 Panthers. Well, over the sake of that Priest and that half-track, they don't come across the 3 Panthers. Fits as a waterline bottle. Okay. Yeah, we were going to get the Bandai Mandalorian, but even with the 40% off, my wife saw the price, so we don't need it that bad. Of course, she made the big 16-inch one for her customer, so. Well, guys, we're coming up near the end of things, and I'm going to be signing off here momentarily. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'm glad you got to make it. So many models, so little time. And just want to extend another. I hope everything, goes well. This mess in the Ukraine can be over with quick, because it's getting real bad over there. I mean, it's been bad, but it's like I'm kind of a little surprised that it hasn't. I mean, it's gotten a lot of media, but I'm kind of surprised it hasn't gotten more than it had. But I have a little backwards theory on that. The Gulf Wars, the TV wars, they basically put a lot of the reporters, into hotels and just fed them information. They just kept it coming, and they had all this great video footage to show them and everything and stuff to feed the machine. And someone would get embedded, and everybody was trying to interview the last one. But this one is a real bad, massive shooting war with the stuff coming the other way. And frankly, I think the media is afraid to get down on the ground, and can't entirely say I blame them. It's not going to. I don't know. I just hope. I mean, it's kind of it's a hollow thing to say. Well, I hope the shooting stops. Well, of course we do. But here's hoping that mess ends as quickly and painlessly as possible. Even though I'm afraid of realistically don't see that happening, and I'm just very concerned it could trigger other things on the other side of the world that we're all very familiar with. I just hope that doesn't happen. No, I agree, Raymond. That's pretty much it. It's fun to sit in a hotel and talk to generals, but to go out there and live in a hovel and have real artillery drop on you. Russia says it'll intercept U.S. weapon shipments. Yeah, because piracy on the high seas never goes wrong. I'm scaring myself. And I gotta, anyway. So, lots of new ideas for armor dioramas, though. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that, but I'm telling you right now, I don't see that one getting old anytime quick. I might have to turn that into a t-shirt. Oh, it's fun being me. So, let's do this way. You guys have seen enough of me for one night, and I'm about to sign off. I will, I'll run that karaoke music one more time. If anybody has any skills in that area, let me know, and I'll just email me, and I will email you the lyrics, or you can come up with your own. But I love that Stan Rogers song, The Idiot, and I thought it was perfect for the Kittiot. And I'll run that one more time. Well, guys, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I hope you had a little bit of fun, took your mind off things for a while. That's one reason I kind of want to stay away from talking about world events, because I think we all sort of come here to get away from it, but at the same time, it's just not the kind of thing we can ignore, I guess. Yeah, bummer, eh? Well, guys, take care of yourselves. I'll see you later. I'll run that outro. And as always, model on.